Don't let anyone tell you that that little side gig is not legitimate. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Cheryl Fischer. She began her career in corporate, transitioned into teaching math and economics, and now she is a mindset coach. She gets vulnerable talking about how her direct sale business, while she was teaching, really gave her the confidence to avoid burnout and start a business of her own. Let's get to it. Cheryl Fischer, welcome to Second Act Success.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm excited to be here.
I know you have a lot to share because you've gone through several different acts in your career so far.
Yes. Yeah.
But let's start back from the beginning. Where did your career first begin?
Yeah, it's interesting. I always say to people, never say never, because when I was in school, I was studying math and economics, and I was always good at math, but I very much did not want to be a teacher. I said, I'm never going to be a teacher. And so I'm not just going to study math. I got to add in something practical. That was the economics. And I decided that I wanted to get a graduate degree in international business. I wanted to go that route. Again, never going to be a teacher. I got to do something businessy. And I did do that. And I worked in consulting for a very short time. And then I worked in airline pricing, actually, for an airline. And then I had kids, and that was the first big switch.
That's when it always happens, right? That's when you go, wait, does this fit what I want to do as a mom? Does this work with my life now? And oftentimes it doesn't always align.
Exactly. So I was managing a team. We were pricing international routes for the airline I was working for, and I really enjoyed parts of my job. I liked managing the team. I love digging into a spreadsheet to this day. Still, I love a spreadsheet. Yet, they were not willing to do any sort of flexibility. It was a short maternity leave, and then it had to be full-time, and I didn't have the option of staying home at the time. After I had my first child, I was just like restless. Like, what am I going to do? And where am I going to go? And can I do this and never have a summer with them? And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was restless. And so I started thinking, what is it that I really love about this job? And what is it that I enjoy? And I'm so kind of proud of myself that I knew to do that at that point, because I sort of accidentally did it. And I know this is advice you give.
That we both give now, right? We both
Yes.
get through it. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And I realized that the biggest thing I enjoyed was mentoring, training the people on my team, or, speaking, explaining to them or other groups. And I kind of went, oh, maybe teacher. After saying for years, I'm never going to teach, I'm not even going to study anything that would be, typically something you would teach, blah, blah, blah. So I decided, you know what, if that's the part I like, I can go and be a math teacher. And I did have to take some courses to do a career switcher program. I did not have to go fully back to school, thankfully, because I probably wouldn't have done that. Because at this point, I had 2 little kids. And so I was taking a class on the weekend and a class, at night. And this was a long time ago, so there wasn't the online option in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, was able to leave my job, was able to get a job teaching middle school math. And I did that for 1 year. And then I actually switched to teaching high school, mainly because I wanted to be a little bit closer to home. Then I ended up teaching for 12 years. During that time, I taught mostly math in high school. I got certified to teach economics as well. And so I taught IB economics. And there were parts of that I really loved, and there were parts I didn't, which is not true of every job, maybe.
I find it interesting that you studied math and economics in college, and then you worked in the number aspect of pricing with the airline, and then you end up teaching. So there is that common thread, which I love finding out through people and our conversations. So that's nice that you were able to take what you studied and what you enjoyed all the way through. But yes, I always wondered with teachers, you teach all day and then you go home to your kids.
Yeah.
And what energy do you have left for your kids? Did you find that was a struggle, or was it something else that you just didn't enjoy about the teaching? aspect?
I think it changed over time. That's a really good question. I'm sort of thinking as I'm talking. Initially, there's some every teacher will tell you this, I think. The first 3 years of being a teacher are really, really hard because you don't really know what you're doing. You know educationally what you're doing, but to then go and be there and handle all the stuff that comes up on a day-to-day basis and it's just an immense amount of work also being a teacher. So I knew that I was happy about my decision because I wanted summers with the kids and I was able to leave earlier than I would have at a different job in the afternoon. And I had to start at the crack of dawn back then, but we had all that worked out. And so I just was powering through, I think, for a few years and not really thinking about the fact that I was tired. And maybe that's because as a parent of young kids, you just are tired.
And you're powering through. You're just
Uh,
trying to get through the day, sadly,
yeah.
right?
But it did kind of change over time because I think one of the reasons that I started to feel burned out is that gradually, of course, my own kids were getting older, and I was always working with teenagers in high school. And as my own kids started to become the same age as my students, that's where I struggled. Because otherwise, it was different. I would go home and I would have kids that were totally different than my students, and it was a change.
True.
Once they were in high school, I felt it, and I wasn't even able to put this into words really until later on when I looked back, but it was just being surrounded by teenagers all the time. It was a lot.
Yeah.
At one point, I went to a seminar. We did a personality assessment. I forgot, maybe the Clifton strengths. I found out that one of my top strengths was empathy.
Mm.
And they were explaining it, and they were saying, you're going to take on emotions of people that you're around. And it was kind of a smack your forehead moment because I thought, I'm spending all day taking on the emotions of all these teenagers all the time. No wonder it's a lot.
And then going home and doing it. And teenagers are so emotional, no matter boy, girl, whatever. They're learning and they're
Yeah.
figuring it out.
100%. Teenagers are amazing people and fascinating and super emotional and challenging. There's always the pro and the con.
Yes.
Once I realized that, though, I was on a path to make a change, even if I didn't recognize it at the time, because it legitimized what I was starting to feel that it was taking a lot out of me. And I mean, teaching does not pay well in general. In my area, the salaries are pretty good compared to some because I'm in a city and we have a higher cost of living, so they pay teachers more. But of course, that balances out. So you can't really spend more with that money. This realization just kind of started me going, oh, and the bureaucracy, and this incident happened, and what they're asking is ridiculous. And this new theory doesn't make any sense. And it just started to pile up where it was never being in the classroom that was the problem. I loved that part, but it was I had to take papers to grade on vacation on spring break. And I would be sitting at my in-laws' lovely place in Florida next to the pool grading papers. What? It was a lot.
It's everything else, and I've heard that from so many conversations with teachers or former teachers that it's not the kids, it's not the classroom, it's everything else. The admin, the parents, the paperwork, the testing. Sounds like you caught it before that burnout kicked in.
Yeah, early burnout, I would say,
Okay.
is where it was. And I shouldn't leave out that I am the kind of person who likes to have multiple things going on at a time. And so when I was always doing some volunteer thing or taking a class or doing this, I once played in a handbell choir. I was always doing something that was addition to work. And so a few years into teaching, I don't remember exactly how many, I hit a big birthday. Actually, it was a number of years into teaching. And I was like, I don't know if I want to be in this spot for 25 more years. Like, I can't imagine it. So I started a direct selling business on the side, and many teachers have side things for income, of course, too.
Mhm.
So I was doing that and I was enjoying that. And I was wondering, well, I wonder if this means this would be a way out. It was kind of fun to think about that as a possibility. That was kind of going along, and I had gone to part-time a year here and there so that I could teach every other day, and I was doing this business, and then I'd come back to full-time when my kids were getting ready to go to college. I kind of always had this, what if there was something else mentality. What that direct selling business gave me is really an eye-opening experience into what I do now. Because before I did anything entrepreneurial, I had no idea about mindset, no idea about making a big goal. And even if you don't hit it, you're further along. And it just, all of that was, I thought it was silly. I thought personal development books were silly and mindset is silly. And that is quite ironic considering what I do now. It was because of that, let me just see thing on the side that changed everything.
It gave you that confidence to look outside what you were used to,
Yeah.
in a sense. What was that next spark that made you say, okay, I'm going to retire from teaching and start this new business and tell us all about what you are doing now?
You're giving me maybe more credit than I deserve saying I was headed towards burnout. I think I was there, and I could envision myself being the gray-haired old teacher that's always angry at everyone.
Yeah.
I just saw it happening, and I didn't wanna be that, and
Props to you
so
for seeing it though, Cheryl, because there's so many people who can't recognize that. So the fact that you saw that, it's almost like when you're to the top of a mountain and you're like, oh, I can only see myself going down from here. You need to see that and have it wake you up to
yeah.
figure out what else you can do. So proud of you for at least recognizing that in yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, and, going along, I'd had some of this mindset training, and maybe I was
Mhm.
starting to know myself better, which is certainly a huge thing. I'm personally thankful all the time that I was realizing this. It was a couple years before 2020 because I know what teachers have gone through since then, and I feel lucky that I left, and I feel thankful for everybody that's there. So you were asking me what kind of led to me leaving. It was this realization that this wasn't going to get better. And I actually, what really happened is I went to the administration of the school I'd been at for 11 years and I said, I would like to go part time again. And they said, you can't. And I said, I have done this before and I see other teachers doing it. And they said, they're grandfathered in. And now that you came back to full time, you can't do it. I said, all right, well, I'm going to leave otherwise. And they were like, oh, we really want to keep you. But no. So I left.
So that was that open door, the saying, okay, then we're not going to help you. And you could have easily said, okay, no problem, I'll stay.
Yeah.
But there was something in your mindset that said, nope, this is that moment, that sign to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And it's so much easier to look back now and realize that, but I thought at the time I was just being stubborn maybe, but it was the right thing.
Yes, for sure. Because look what it led you to. And I love that you had the direct sales business because that gave you the confidence to build a business on the
Yeah.
side. And then now you have all the time and opportunity to create a larger business for yourself.
Yes. And I have always, like I was saying, had multiple things going on. So I left teaching and I had my direct sales business and I kept with that for quite a while and it was growing pretty significantly. And at the same time, I was working part-time. My friend owns a tutoring franchise. I was doing her scheduling and some of her marketing. For a number of years now, I've been doing some corporate training back in the airline industries for a software company. So I always had multiple things going on because I guess I don't like to have all my eggs in one basket.
That's smart because you're in control of what you bring in, you're in control of your schedule.
Yeah. So while that was going on, I started hiring a coach here and there because I knew there was this whole world of entrepreneurship and business mindset and big goals and all of that that I didn't really understand except for the surface of it. And so I worked with a business coach for a little while and that was helpful. And then through a friend of mine, I found a mindset coach or success coach, I think she called herself at the time, we dove into a program created by Bob Proctor with her. I didn't understand before the power our thoughts have. Sometimes still struggle to put it into words, which is silly because now I'm a mindset coach, but it's just so powerful what we believe in our subconscious, what we tell ourselves all day. Starting to dive into that and understand it, I was hooked immediately.
It's
So
what you needed to heal yourself at that time too, right? It was what
Well,
you needed.
that's a great point, actually. I don't know if I ever thought of it that way. Because I was looking at this as, all right, if I'm going to do this business and it's going to be as big as I want it to be, then I better be able to think that and know that and trust that and go for it. But I was probably also healing. It's a good point. I think every time we make a big change, the change can be exciting, but there's things we'll miss or there's things that are maybe hard about that.
There's always that grieving process, you're grieving it, yet you're excited, yet you're terrified and you're learning. So yeah, you're vulnerable during that transition time.
Yeah.
For you, I'm assuming focusing on mindset and learning that and training to be a mindset coach, you're taking that in and you're using those skills for yourself as well.
That's a great point. I like that you said that. I'm gonna think on that. I was healing, but I guess I didn't think of it as that. Yeah. Interesting. And sort of woven into there, I had realized when I was teaching that I was always it was a very negative environment. Most teachers really love the kids and they really love the act of teaching. And most teachers really love getting together and complaining because it's a hard job and the pay is low. There's a lot to complain about. The copier's broken and I can't believe the principal said this and I can't believe the parent said that. And so when we were together, I had a great department. I liked all the people I worked with, and it was kind of a step beyond. I talk about this a lot. I think people often just converse by complaining. We talk about the weather. Oh, the traffic was bad. Or, oh, it's Monday again. This is how we have conversations. And it was kind of a step beyond that because teachers together, we would egg each other on and just negative, 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 negative without really realizing it, not trying to be negative. And I was starting to catch that. And I was starting to catch it in family members too, like in the older generation, where I thought, oh, I'm leaning a little complaining and pessimistic here, and I never realized it. All of this mindset learning that I was doing was making me realize that about myself and make changes. And in fact, there was a period of time where I felt like I kind of forgot how to have a conversation, to be honest, because I would not allow myself to say, it's the traffic, the weather, it's hot, I'm tired. Yeah. And then I wouldn't even know what to say. On the surface, there's nothing really that wrong with it. Hello, how's the weather? Oh, isn't it hot? Like you're connecting with people, but underneath that, there can be a lot of stuff that's not great.
True. So you're learning that. And then are you instantly feeling like I want to help others fix their mindset too, because now I'm fixing my own?
Exactly what happened. Yes, exactly what happened. So I finished a couple of different coaching programs and I was really applying it in myself, and I was helping my direct selling team to apply it. And I just kind of started to go, why couldn't I help other people? Every teacher somewhere in there is, I want to help other people. That's always going to be one of the reasons to do a career like that. And I always love training. I always love speaking. So that's exactly what happened. How can I teach this to other people? And I looked at so many things. I looked at being a coach for very well-structured and outlined programs where I was kind of a facilitator. I thought about being a speaker where I would travel and speak to groups. And then I thought, well, okay, what am I going to speak about? I need to have an angle. I need to have a message. And all of that thinking was just going on for, I would say, years, honestly, if I look back now. 2.5 years ago, I was thinking back and I was maybe on the speaker track again. And I was like, I don't know about all the travel that would involve. And I just, again, it was another like OMG moment. I went, wait, I could do a podcast and I could do that from anywhere. And I was in mindset coach and life coach training at that time. So I was going to be and am a certified coach. So, okay, I felt that gave me legitimacy. And why couldn't I share all this information with a microphone from my house? I don't know why I didn't think of that. And maybe if you're listening, you're probably thinking one of two things. Well, of course, anyone can do a podcast. For really? Anyone could do a podcast? You know,
Good point, Cheryl. Good point. Yes.
I needed to learn some of the setup. I needed to learn how to do it. And I was starting a coaching business at the same time. I mean, I'm always doing multiple things. It's definitely a theme. Definitely a theme. But everything now started fitting together. And I was going to coach people one-on-one, and I was starting to do that. And I was going to speak to a group via podcast. And I got so excited about it. We launched in May of 2023, and I loved doing both of those things. And probably will keep doing that. I never say always, I never say never. Probably will keep doing them for a long time.
But that's what's great about podcasting is you really can't, you can take a couple weeks off. You can repeat episodes. Like it's not this 9 to 5 drain on your time and energy.
Yeah.
And your podcast is Mind Your Midlife. So just so everyone
Yes.
can go and listen to it because it's fantastic and such direction. And I'd say like gems of information on how to tweak your mindset and hear from the guests that you have on. It's really a fun podcast.
Thank you very much. And yes, and you've been on it, and your episode has been very popular about,
Oh,
of course, figuring out your second act. Yeah,
oh,
I've
good.
gotten very good feedback on that.
Thank you.
The interesting part of that is it wasn't originally called Mind Your Midlife. About a year and a half, it was called OMG Teach Me.
Mm.
And the reason it was called that is because I had been given the advice that a catchy title that people would remember is a good idea. And people did remember that title. But the problem was they had no idea what it was. And you're nodding. I know what I'm going to say. Was it for teachers? Was it for students? What were they going to learn? Or were they going to learn how to and it wasn't any of that. Originally, the description was powerful lessons in life that we didn't learn in school. Still mindset. It grew, and then it kind of just grew super slowly and a bit of a plateau. And I ended up hiring a podcast coach. I mean, I think coaches have to believe in coaching. Otherwise, I'm not sure we honestly are doing what we should be doing. Yeah.
I feel like all good coaches have coaches themselves, you
Agree.
know.
Agree.
Accountability.
Agree. Absolutely. So what she said to me is people have to look at that and know, oh, this is for me or not right now. And so I had to figure out, well, who am I talking to and how will I communicate that? And I ended up deciding that midlife women, that's really who I have a heart for. And that's me.
Yeah.
And at the same time, this period of life is particularly challenging. Aging parents, there's kids in a whole new phase, there's body changes, there's retirement on the horizon. It's a lot. So mindset really is important to get through all of that. And so, yeah, that's where Mind Your Midlife came from.
I love it. So that just is a way for you to get your message out there in front of more people and then bring in clients to coach as well. People, I think, listen to your episodes, get to know you ahead of time, and then say, okay, I need a little extra Cheryl time, and I'm going to now work with you one-on-one to really focus on my mindset. Is that what you've been seeing in your business now?
Yes, absolutely. I see what is the word? A gap in the coaching market, and we'll see if I'm right. I think I see this gap that you can hire a coach one-on-one or you can take a course. But a lot of times what I hear from women in this midlife age range is I want a community where I can talk to me when I need to and I can learn things, but I want it to be on my own time and available when I need it. And so I am right now launching a Patreon community called Midlife Pivot, which is exactly that. We're going to do a monthly Zoom on various coaching topics, and I coach tapping as well as something that people can do. And so I'll have little tapping exercises in there, extra bonus podcast interviews, bonus items from podcast guests, and all of that. I like the Patreon platform for that because it's separate from social media. People can go in when they want to and see what they want to see. So yeah, that's been exciting.
That'll be great. Oh, well, I'll definitely link to that in the show notes as well so people can check that out because I think for my listeners, whether they're thinking of leaving a career, starting a business, if they're in an early entrepreneurial journey, whatever that second act looks like, mindset needs to be a part of it too. So
Absolutely.
I think that sounds incredibly helpful. If people want to reach out to you, where can they connect with you? Where are all the places?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So on most social media, I'm Cheryl P. Fischer, and that's Fischer. My website is cherylpfischer.com. The podcast, as we said, is Mind Your Midlife. On any podcast app, you can find Mind Your Midlife. And then the Patreon, you can check out at patreon.com/Mind Your Midlife.
Well, I love that. How are you feeling in this second act, or maybe third or fourth at this point, act of your life compared to when you first began teaching or worked in the corporate world? How does entrepreneurship fit you compared to working for someone else?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I like being in charge. Yeah. No, in a good way, hopefully, not in a bad way. I like being able to arrange my tasks, my schedule, how I want to. I still do some corporate training as well. So again, multiple things. I like variety. So maybe that's even bigger than being in charge, honestly. I get bored easily, so I like the different pieces that come with creating this thing on my own. I might be editing an episode, I might be creating content, I might be chit-chatting on social media with people. It's just all
Yeah.
different things. So I like that a lot.
I agree. Entrepreneurship, being a business owner of any kind, you are multitasking and you do have your hand in a lot because if you take your hand off, the business isn't moving. It's not growing. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, and where you're in a 9 to 5 job, and a lot of times, teacher or corporate, whatever it is, you have your set tasks, your set role for the day. You can be limited as to how creative you can get and how much you
Yes.
can handle. So, I'm with you. I love that idea as an entrepreneur of having my hands in so many things, creating new things. I don't know about you, but sometimes I say, nope, I cannot handle this right now. This
Yeah.
is going on the list for next quarter
Yeah.
or the new year because it's sometimes as a creative, you think of so many things and it's so
Yeah.
exciting, but it's reeling it back in and saying it doesn't all have to happen at once.
Yes, and actually, it's funny that we're talking about this because I know you created a book.
Yes.
And I have been thinking for a long time about doing a book, and that's gone on that someday list because I started thinking a bit more about it and went, no, I just can't handle that right now. Yeah.
Good. I think that is really smart because sometimes you just go, oh, I want to do it. And then it's half assed or it's just
Mhm.
not, you're not in the full mindset to really focus on it. So I love that it's on your list and you'll get to it when you have a little space and
Yeah.
then you can ask me all about it. We have so much to share and I'm excited for your book when it does come out.
Yeah. Someday.
Let's wrap up with this. I just want to ask you, what advice do you have for someone who is thinking about leaving their corporate career, starting a second act of any kind? What advice would you give them?
This is probably not going to be surprising given my story, but absolutely my advice is to try things alongside what you're doing. For a long time, I felt like whatever the side hustle, I'm doing air quotes, wasn't really legitimate. Not that it wasn't a legitimate business, but like, oh, that's a cute little thing. Like that wouldn't amount to anything. It wouldn't be meaningful, but you can do your cute little thing. And I was doing a cute little thing. But those things sometimes grow into life-changing, huge things, sometimes almost by accident, and sometimes because you found what you love and you can pull every thread, take the paths that open to you. I would just caution people against thinking that doing something on the side is not a powerful way to start something. That way you don't have the panic that sometimes that comes from, okay, I've cut off my source of income. And now what am I going to do? And now everything is done with like desperation. If somebody has that concern, I would say start something on the side and let yourself just follow that and see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, try something else.
That's fantastic advice. You have to just take that, put it away, and say, no, I'm going to try this and I'm going to see where it grows. And for you, it grew into you getting this confidence to leave your job and start this new life for yourself.
Absolutely.
Cheryl, we could just talk all day. This is so wonderful. Thank you for being here and for sharing your story and sharing your advice. I think a lot of my listeners are going to be able to take takeaways from everything that you said. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really have had fun talking with you.